Hi, this is Sodhin Bhartia and welcome to TFR Newsroom. Let's introduce you to our guest today. Today we have with us Chip Childers, CTO. No, you're now Executive Director of the Foundry Foundation. So let's talk about this new role that you have taken at the foundation.
Yeah, change of role. So I've stepped into the Executive Director role for the foundation. It's a very exciting time of transition that we have. The last time we spoke, we talked about the KubeCF project joining the foundation. And it's a good indication of the kind of the bigger transition that we're going through, which is really around this new North Star for the whole community, bringing the enterprise developer experience to Kubernetes infrastructure. And so it's a very exciting time to be stepping into the role.
Yeah, and a lot of things are happening in this community. I think, if I'm not wrong, Google has also upped their membership, and now they're at the platinum tier, if I'm not wrong.
That's true. Yeah, we were quite happy to have them decide to upgrade, and we appreciate their support on that. It's membership in a foundation like Cloud Foundry or others is really it's a way to help support the ongoing all of our activities that support the community who actually builds the software that then all the commercial distros use and the open source users use. So it's pretty great stuff.
So a lot of positive developments are happening for the Cloud Foundry project and the community. So I'm just curious to understand from your perspective, what does this all translate into for the project, for the foundation, and for the Cloud Foundry ecosystem? Can you talk a bit about that?
Actually, for years now, we've been telling everyone that, look, that a lot of the enterprises that adopted Cloud Foundry were also trying to adopt Kubernetes because they're solving two different problems. What's important now is that they're becoming complementary, right? The more effective our community is at building their software in a way that can be deployed and managed easily inside of Kubernetes infrastructure, it solves for the developer productivity problem. And then in addition to that, right, you get access to Kubernetes as kind of a more raw infrastructure experience, which is a dramatic improvement over the virtual machine-based models of the past. So, thinking about Kube as an infrastructure platform, thinking about Cloud Foundry as a developer platform, the developer platform should run on the infrastructure platform, and we've both communities have kind of reached the point that Kubernetes has become quite mature, becoming adopted. The Cloud Foundry early adopters and some of the large scale adopters, they're ready to see those two get blended. You're right. We have had a lot of news, and it is probably 2020 is sort of like the year that I'd like a do-over on. I think most of the world would at this point. The reality though is that software is effectively. Software has become a very important tool for large organizations, whether it's governments or whether it's large companies, or even now small companies are realizing that they're at this point where they have to embrace software and digital communication with their customers. Everything from grocers are that if they didn't have delivery options, they're having to solve that very quickly now. To the way governments are having to very rapidly roll out websites that respond effectively to giving citizens information. It's anytime that there's a crisis, there's also an opportunity for communities, especially open source communities, to find ways to be helpful. I think that a lot of the work that our community's done over 5 years now, even before there was a foundation, in focusing on that enterprise developer productivity is the sort of capability that now supports those that have adopted the platform. It allows them to move quickly to respond to changing conditions, whether those are market conditions or, in this case, a global pandemic. So we're actually pretty proud of a lot of the end users and how they're able to use software more efficiently now.
We cannot talk about Cloud Foundry without talking about Kubernetes. And something interesting is happening there. If you look at VMware, VMware last year acquired Pivotal. And Pivotal is one of the biggest contributors, is one of the biggest stakeholders of Cloud Foundry project. And if you look at VMware, they are, I think, if I'm not wrong, third largest contributors to Kubernetes. So now you have a player who has its stakes in both Kubernetes and Cloud Foundry. So what does this mean for Cloud Foundry?
Yeah, that's a really good question, and I think it's important to emphasize the word "and." I obviously I don't speak for VMware, but if you take a look at the way that their modern application business unit is putting together the Tanzu portfolio of offerings, the Tanzu application service is Cloud Foundry, and the VMware focus on Kubernetes is the new infrastructure platform for the enterprise and for all organizations. It's a very clear indication that the teams that used to work for Pivotal are being kind of intermixed with the teams that were at VMware and through some of their other acquisitions like Heptio. They're all working together on the shared vision of creating the Tanzu platform. It happens to align really well with the vision that other Cloud Foundry distributions have, like the way SUSE builds Kubernetes-based infrastructure, layers Cloud Foundry on top for developer productivity. That I think that alignment inside the Dell Technology family of companies, with Pivotal kind of moving into VMware, has allowed that that amazing engineering team to be very focused on the same outcomes that the other engineering teams and other participants in the community have been focused what they've been focused on. So the other interesting thing is we're really happy that Paul Fazone is stepping into the chairman of the board role. Paul heads R&D for VMware's modern applications business unit. He's been on our board for a long time. He's been treasurer for a number of years. And so it's great that we're going to continue to see the investment in the open source community, both at the business level from VMware, but also in terms of supporting the contributors, whether we're talking about developers or product managers or project management support, marketing support. They're not wavering in their commitment to open source across the board, and Cloud Foundry is one of those communities that will benefit from that.
As the new leader, as the new executive director of the project, what vision are you bringing to the foundation, to the project? Of course, it's a community-driven project, but still, what is the roadmap that you have?
Yeah, I think there's really three key things that we're going to focus on, and that align well with where the community's focused. So the first thing is that the foundation staff itself, as well as the key member contacts and participants that we have, we're going to be very focused on working with the contributing community to improve their experience, to continue to diversify. We've been very proud of a lot of the inclusivity and diversity work that the foundation's done over the years. We still believe that is not just important to the health of our community overall, but the little bit of a dent that we can help make in the broader technology industry. It's material and it matters immensely. So the second area that we think is very important is to kind of simplify, the way that we think about that North Star, right? The guiding light for the community efforts. We've always had a number of different audiences that we've tried to describe the work of the project to, whether that's line of business leaders, CIOs, IT operations, enterprise developers. For us, it really needs to boil down to a very simple story. Enterprise developers who don't have the benefit of modern application platforms struggle immensely with having to jump over hurdles constantly to get their work out into production. That's everything from the processes that they use. Are they actually adopting or approaching the adoption of continuous delivery? Down to the amount of work they have to do to actually release the software, right? And the CF platform has been evolving for years with a very, very specific focus on that enterprise developer productivity. And so, enterprise developer productivity for Kubernetes infrastructure, that's our new North Star.
So much is changing around Cloud Foundry and the whole cloud native world. That I want to know from you, what is the mission of Cloud Foundry today?
Yeah, that core mission is to bring a world-class enterprise developer experience to as many enterprise developers as possible. The third thing I realized I didn't mention with your last question was our third priority is to do a better job of making sure that it's clear how much cross-community pollination happens, right? So how many developers or companies participating in the Cloud Foundry efforts also participate in Istio, also participate in Kubernetes and all the various SIGs within that community. There's a massive overlap, and I think that that's going to be very beneficial to everyone, right? To the learnings that developers that are helping to code Kubernetes or Istio learn, the things that they learn during that process should flow into the way that the CF community builds the developer experience on top of those systems. And so that cross-pollination is really, really important.
We have talked about it earlier also, but now you're in a much more influential position at Cloud Foundry. Is there anything that you would like to change or do differently than the project or the foundation has been doing it? Tell me about that.
Yeah, I think it's a really fair question. There's nothing dramatic that's going to change. We, as a leadership team, had already, as well as working with our board, had already made some choices back in 2019 to think about how we approach, events. Right? Is a big trade show type event like the Cloud Foundry Summits have been in the past appropriate for our community, or is that is that more appropriate existing as the commercial vendor events? Well, now virtual events, but the commercial vendor type events. For us, we've been on a very careful and planned shift in our strategy for how we support the community to get to that number one priority, which is think about the actual contributors and how do we create moments of collaboration for them that enhance the work that they do a little bit more asynchronously, or within the day-to-day of their the project teams they're working on. So I think that's going to be the biggest change. It would have been the biggest change even without me stepping into this role. But it's going to continue that way. Now it's going to become a little bit harder as we deal with some of the challenges around the pandemic. But I'm very excited about spending a lot of our effort focused on increasing the impact of the collaboration time, face-to-face collaboration time that we're able to create for that community.
Thank you, Chip, for taking some time out from your schedule and talking to me today.
Good deal. Thank you, Swapna.